I actually was sentenced to serve 12 and a half years in federal prison for bank fraud. And the judge at my sentencing said he wasn't punishing me for what I did, but for me daring to do it in places such as Alpine and Saddle River, which was some of the richest areas in New Jersey.
Hey, it's your girl Nancy Red, and this is Season 4 of Mompreneurs, where we celebrate beautiful Black entrepreneurs who are also amazing moms. Now, every week I'm chatting with my guests about how they are crushing it simultaneously as business moguls and as moms. We're listening to their inspiring journeys and incredible advice. Now, you don't want to miss this week's guest. She is a mompreneur millionaire multiple times over by the age of 25, who was sentenced to over 12 years in prison for mortgage and bank fraud. But now today, Dr. Jamila Davis is an author, an entrepreneur, a motivational speaker, a prison reform advocate. She's a social butterfly who is just an incredible person and a mother who has turned her past into purpose, from serving time to building her own businesses back and helping people rise in her communities. Jamila is living proof that your mistakes don't define you, but your comeback does. Welcome, Jamila.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
This is wonderful. And you are an incredible inspiration to many people listening who want to know exactly what mistakes to make, what mistakes not to make, and how to know the difference. Because business is messy, right?
It certainly is.
And life is messy, and you are helping people not make a mess out of the opportunities that are out there for everyone.
That's right. And really the only reason why I'm able to help people do that is because I made a whole big mess, right? And then I had to come back from that. But the greatest part in the messes is the lessons, right? So there's actually blessings in the lessons, which is the mess that we talked about. And I want to talk about that today with you too, because some people are stuck right now in the mess, and it's going to be the lessons from our exchange that will help them get out of it and actually see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I think you should trademark blessings lessons. And I say that all the time to my mentees. I'm like, look, listen to me. I have made some mistakes and they have cost me dearly. You don't need to do the same thing. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Part of the issue is that you were creating the wheel. Like, you started off as a mompreneur, when you were very young. And would you say that, are you the first entrepreneur in your family to go the distance?
I actually want to say I encourage my parents now to be entrepreneurs, right? So yes, my parents were working class, middle class folks that came from Kinston, North Carolina. They were, dirt poor, and they used education to break the bonds of poverty, and they began to build. But they were always told to get them good government jobs, right? Because that was their lane, and their thing. And they did that. And then I think I came along and showed them that there's something that you can actually do after that. So now today, my mother is a real estate broker. She got into the brokerage through me. And she actually is also the owner of Voices International Publications. And we'll talk more about that. But that's a company that I helped her to set up from behind bars to showcase the work that I do. So yes, I gave my parents into entrepreneurship.
I love that. I think that's wonderful. And that's the thing, though. For someone, we're not hating on government jobs. They are safe. They are wonderful, because not everybody is meant to be an entrepreneur.
Are they safe? Because now we're in a new season.
Well, no, and not the. That is true.
This is why your podcast is so important to people, to understand the importance of entrepreneurship, right?
100%.
And you can still have it as a side hustle. So you can still keep your day job.
Yes.
But what if the day job becomes unstable? Right?
Yes, and I just want to be very clear. It's okay, because I have a job. I would argue most of the mompreneurs that come on here have a job and their hustle. So yes, but you're correct. That is one of the great reasons we should all be mompreneurs. It's the reason for this podcast, to create generational wealth and also to protect yourself and insulate yourself from job loss, which again, the government job at the time of your parents was considered safe, and now not so much. Okay, so you didn't come from entrepreneurs. What inspired your entrepreneurship? Like, what was the motivation for you to say, I need to break out and do something
This
differently?
gonna be your uncut episode, right? Because my motivation was really the hustlers in the street, right? I saw their freedom. I saw that they had the cars, the money, the things, and I wanted that fast money. And I was like, okay, hold up. This good government job ain't gonna get me that way. Now, this is mindset. I'm not the same now, but just to be honest, it was seeing hustlers working for themselves, and really they probably had the potential to do business legitly, but they weren't. So me seeing that and seeing how, fast money comes when you set up opportunities for yourself made me want to get into the game.
And you had kids.
Yes, I actually had my son at 19. So I was a teenage mother as well. So in the life, trying to find out what's what, and I didn't have to. So the other thing is I was really the good girl that went bad, right? So I went after the bad boys. So I was this girl that was kind of sheltered and protected, and I saw the racy stuff, and it actually took me down the wrong route. But eventually it was that racy stuff and me taking that risk that when I was able to change my mindset, I was actually able to flip the game.
So talk to us about the rise. You began at what age going after your initial entrepreneurial pursuits?
So I started fixing credit. So I became the credit girl in the hood. I was the one who could help you take your 550 credit score to 800 just like that, right? And again, my story is going to be a little bit different because it was me always playing the gray area. So I had hookups inside of the credit bureaus and things of that nature. So I was able to get a lot done quickly. And that's actually how I ended up catching my first federal case, was through that. But in my mind, I was kind of like a Robin Hood, right? I was someone who, this is way before like folks were now into financial literacy and all those things. I just saw my people suffering, and I saw that they were lacking access to opportunity. So I learned the credit game. I was like, okay, I'm gonna teach them this. Then I started helping them do like buy houses. So I had home ownership workshops, and this was all like 22, 23 years old. I was doing this in my community, and I actually helped hundreds of people buy homes, get cars, and do all of these different things. But I really had no one to show me how to do this legitly. So for me, it wasn't what I did, it was how I did it. So that's what I teach people, the young people today, the right way to do business, because you could be doing business and it could be all the way bad, and that'll get you jammed up.
Well, right, because you're a first generation business person. And one thing that is important for people listening is there was no Google. There were no Instagram reels explaining the do's and don'ts of credit and mortgages. How did you get your information?
So there was an auto broker who was getting cars for people, and he was helping them. And I got infatuated with understanding what he was doing. So learning what he was doing. Now, he was not probably who I should be learning from because he was doing it the wrong way, right? So I just was like, okay. And then I started doing things on my own. I learned, and I just kind of trial and error. So it's almost just like you're throwing what you know or don't know up against the wall and trying to see what sticks. Because we was at a time where information wasn't as accessible, like you said, as it is today.
Right. You're just trying to get whatever information you could, hoping for the best. And then there's always the phrase, when you know better, you do better. Because the good news is you're doing some of the same stuff. You just have the right information now to the point where your mama is in the world with you too. How does that make you feel that you've been able to do this transformation from doing things the wrong way to, or the way that was not socially prescribed, to doing things by the book and still being very successful?
For me, it's really God's work, right? So I consider my business ministry. I'm a social entrepreneur. So I only get involved in business that creates impact, right? Because I understand my purpose, and my purpose on this earth is to be a change maker, to open up doors for others. Really, my mission is to uplift others to become their greater self, to see their potential. So every business that I do is to empower my people. And to be honest, that was the charge I had back then when I was younger. Because like I said, I was actually a member of Love Fellowship, Hezekiah Walker's church, right? I actually helped Hezekiah get his first home back then. And I was a member of the church, and I wanted to see my people do better. Folks were struggling, and I'm like, wait a second, now what I did learn from my dad was he always had property. So my father was into real estate. And I saw how him buying property actually turned him into becoming a millionaire. So I wanted to take that information and share it with my people. Like, look, you guys could do this too. It's not that difficult. So it's really the difference of information. Someone could actually be paying more money in rent than what they could pay in a mortgage. And the only difference is they didn't know that they might need a mortgage broker because the traditional bank might not approve them. So it's just these small things, which is actually financial literacy, which has the potential to break the bonds of poverty in hoods across America. And that's what we do now. We make sure we teach people and give them the information that others have.
Absolutely. And a lot of times people think, oh, well, you need money to buy things. But America is actually built on credit,
Right.
which is a very complicated dance. And it's something that no one teaches you. I know that one of the issues that you saw when working with the rappers and baller clients that you were, is that they may have an influx of cash, but that's not what gets you your home. That's not what can get you your cars. And what can get them that was their credit. And it often gets messed up then and now by something silly like a jewelry bill or a late payment. And those momentary lapses.
The importance of it, right? So if I don't know the importance of credit, I'm just going to misuse it because I don't understand that this is really my key to the gate. So that's why it's so important that we teach children financial literacy way before they even touch a credit card, because they got to understand this credit card is not just a credit card. It's my ticket to the future. Because if we understand the worth of something, then we understand how to value it. And I feel like I didn't have that education either. Nobody really explained, okay, this credit is going to really be what opens up the door for you. So guard it with your life. If you can't afford it, don't use it, right? Make sure when you get that credit card, you pay it off. This is not the splurge vehicle. This is something that's going to actually help open you to other opportunities. Nobody taught me that.
Well, and it continues today in even worse ways, like Klarna. I'm sure that what you're dealing with, and one of the great things about what you're doing, is you are encouraging financial literacy in the next generation. That's one of the aspects of your social entrepreneurship, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But it's become even easier. You would think it would become harder, because like when we were going to college, you got the free t-shirt for signing up for the credit card, not knowing exactly what you were getting yourself into. But now you can DoorDash and put it on installment payments. And that's not helping to build generational wealth.
It's not. And we see the news now, right? They say there are like $136 million in bad losses from people doing that because people are just looking for a lick. Our generation is taught to get the lick. And what I mean by a lick is something that you get one time and it's over. We're not teaching people sustainability, right? I don't want the lick because the lick is going to come one time. I'm going to get a taste of something that I'm not going to be able to afford. I want to figure out, how do I get this for life? So if you do it the right way the first time, you can eat for life instead of one bite of something good, one good time. So I think it's mindset shift. That's how we change the mindset of our generation to understand, look, this is what you have to do to be successful forever. And that's generational wealth.
So you, at the age of 25, had accomplished more generational wealth than many people had or would. And the rise was very spectacular, but so was the fall. And now you've shared your story on BET, Forbes, the whole world knows your story. But as a mompreneur, you have these children. How old were they at this time? They were in grade school still, right?
So when I went to prison, my kids were 9 and 11, and I didn't return home till they were 18 and 21. So again, my poor choices, and just, to sum it up, it was bank fraud. Me helping the hood get cars, me helping people, the ball players, the this, the that. I was getting folks luxury homes and kind of got them into that because they didn't want them there either. So that's the other thing that we don't know, is that we're not wanted in these communities, right? So I became the gatekeeper that opened up the door for everybody. Like, come on, y'all, we coming in. And I got punished for that. And I got punished severely. I actually was sentenced to serve 12 and a half years in federal prison for bank fraud, right? And really, again, that was me trying to open up the door of opportunity for folks, and I got punished for it. And the judge basically at my sentencing said he wasn't punishing me for what I did, but for me daring to do it in places such as Alpine and Saddle River, which was some of the richest, areas in New Jersey. He said I belonged in East Orange and Newark. And at the time, I really didn't even know about East Orange and Newark. But as God would say, I did belong in those areas because now I'm transforming those areas with my information, right? But at the time, the judge punished me for being in a place that he felt like the Black 25-year-old girl didn't belong.
And so you've got these babies. What do you say to them when they've experienced the highs with you and now they're about to experience the lows? Right before you go into prison, what do you tell your kids?
Well, they took me out of court, so I never got to tell them pretty much anything. And I was just believing God that I was going to overcome the situation. But what I got to tell them on the visiting room floor is that mommy made a mistake, but, let me work with them to help them not make the mistake that I once did. And really, it was behind bars. I used entrepreneurship to gain a tighter bond with my kids. My son started his clothing line. It's called Kawan Terrell Wear. You can actually look it up because there was articles and things written about it when I was in prison. I actually learned how to crochet in prison. And my son created this crochet line with alpaca. And we had all of the celebrities and folks that I knew that were back at home wearing his clothing line. And that was something that we created on the visiting floor at prison. And that's where I first started teaching, because I teach entrepreneurship now to thousands of kids across the country. But the first kid that I ever taught was my son. And I saw the impact of what that did for him. When he began to learn about business, when he began to create a budget, when he began to realize that he could be his own boss, it did something for him. It gave him confidence, right? It taught him he could be successful and he didn't have to wait for success. He could be successful now. And that was the game changer.
I love that. And he's just one example. You still have businesses going that you started in prison.
That's correct. So I started with my mom. Remember, I told you that my mom is also now the owner of Voices International Publications. She started that business from me reading a book called The Dan Pointer's Guide to Self-Publishing. So I had nothing but time in prison but to read. So I would step by step telling my mother what to do. Okay, set up the corporation. Now I need you to go register, get the ISBNs this way. So I was the one behind bars reading. And then my mom was the one out in the world actually doing. So we created something now that is, life transformational for folks across the country, because it's our books that are in classrooms, empowering folks. Our books are in colleges, right? Our books are all over, and we actually create life-changing tools to help people become their greatest self.
You also founded Pink Passion Apparel.
Yes.
In there.
Yes.
I love how I accidentally, that was a Freudian slip. I said you also, I said you found a Pink Passion Apparel in college, and I laughed because it was a Freudian slip because he was in prison. But in prison, you went to college. I mean, you were very busy when you were in prison. You made the most of that time.
Yeah, let's talk about that. I mean, so behind the wall was actually the place that God spoke to me. It was the place in the first time that I actually really got to hear God's voice, right? So when you are ripped away from everything that you know and love, and you want to really, really thrive, you got to surrender to the plan of a higher power. And it was there that I began to write. So writing changed my life. I became the author of over a dozen books from behind bars. I also went back to school. I ended up getting my associate's degree, my bachelor's, my master's, and I started the coursework for my PhD from behind bars. I also started a nonprofit organization called Women Over Incarcerated, and I started like a prison reform movement from behind bars to help people know about the women who they throw away in the trash and the lengthy sentences that many of us are getting for non-violent, crimes, and many as first-time offenders. So I utilized that time to empower me with information. And then I have people such as Lauren Hill, who I consider to be one of my mentors. She actually did time for her taxes. So during that time, she was behind bars with me for 90 days. And she became like a mentor to me and helped me kind of see myself in a light that I didn't see myself. And that light that she put on me, I now put onto others. So I just really, truly believe it was God's way of getting my attention, helping me to shift my thinking and to get back into purpose-driven work.
So when you're behind bars, you're doing all of this, it seems like you were just nonstop. But was there ever a moment where you just felt sorry for yourself? One of the things that mompreneurs deal with is there's a sometimes a debilitating feeling of guilt, of sorrow. Was there ever a time where you just didn't think that you would be able to pick up the pieces and do what you ended up doing, which was rebuilding yourself and your family?
Absolutely. So in the beginning of my sentence, I felt like it was over, right? I actually asked God to take my life because I didn't believe that I could serve this sentence. And that's when I heard the voice of the Lord. It was like either you sink or you swim. Meaning, if I'm every day, woe is me, oh, it happened, that means every day I'm going to be miserable. Every day I serve this time, I'm not going to be able to take it. But if I see the glass as half full instead of half empty, I can then say, okay, what can I do to make the best out of this time? So I stopped thinking about what the sentence was. I started thinking, okay, how can I be productive during this time? And I think many of us have to think about that. We in a situation right now with this president, right? We don't know what's about to happen. Some of us are going to be on hold. But even if you're on hold or in a season of delay, if you have the mindset to think, how can I make the best out of this situation and every situation so I become solution focused instead of problem focused, it's a game changer. And that's just what I did. So I lived through the work that I did. I became driven by what's my next project? Okay, I got how many more years left? All right, how many more years will it take to do this degree? Send that coursework over. Let me do that because I knew when I got out of prison, I would never lay down again. That's it. So I wanted to get all the tools, all the resources, as much knowledge as I could get to be able to do the work that I'm doing today.
Well, and here you are. It's quite impressive. How many years ago did you get out of prison?
8 years now.
Okay. Well, step one, that's less time than your baby was when you went to prison, which is wild, right? Like yes. you have not even made up half of the ground of the existence of your wonderful family. You're in this situation. So it's been 8 years since you got out of prison. Was the plan that you mapped out in prison to hit the ground running, to push the pavement, to never lay down, once you got back, got your kids back, got back on your feet, literally, was that executable?
Yes, every goal I set in prison, I accomplished it, right? So what's the first step? We got to write the vision and make it plain. So anytime you see me, you're going to see a pad, right? I don't even use the old school, the new school stuff, which is like a lot of people do writing, via, the devices. I write my stuff down. Every place I turn, baby, there's a piece of paper because I learned there is magic in the power of writing. Right? When you write something down, and the Bible teaches us, write the vision and make it plain, make it clear, make it simple. So when you write down those goals as a mom entrepreneur, I want to do this. I'm going to accomplish that. Now we have something called short-term goals and long-term goals, right? So a lot of us are looking at long-term goals and saying, no, those are too far away. Well, let's break down those long-term goals and make them short-term goals. What can I do now? In my season of now, what can I do? And then how will this set me up of what I can do afterwards? And that's what I did. I wrote down everything I wanted to do. And then that was the first step. But the second step is seeing myself. So the power of visualization. I got to see myself before I can be it, right? So I teach my kids, it's a chapter in my book, you got to see it to be it, right? So now I got to start imagining. I got to go back to that place that I did as a little girl before people told me my dreams couldn't come true. And I got to start believing because it's going to be our faith that actually makes us whole, right? So now once we start writing it down, we got to start seeing it, spending time in our head, closing our eyes and imagine. And I used to walk the track in prison. And that's how I would escape. And I saw myself living in my dream home, right? I rode in my new car. I started seeing myself speaking to people way before I ever began to speak to them, right? And I saw it. And when I saw it in my spirit, then that was how I was able to make it happen. So once you can see it spiritually, now your faith will make it whole. So it was opportunities now that was just coming to me through the universe. And I call that the law of attraction. When we start believing it and seeing it, then the situations will start lining up. People will come out of nowhere and say, hey, I have this opportunity. You're like, wow, that's what I wanted. But that's the power of manifestation. And it's all spiritual principles that I believe that every mom entrepreneur needs to know and understand, that we have the power. We can manifest our dreams, but first we have to dare and give ourselves permission to dream again. And when we dream, let's dream big, because we serve a big God. One day a principal slid in my DM and asked me if I would come to her school to speak. And I said, wow, sure. And my first check was $5,000. She actually ended up setting us up to be a vendor. And I didn't know that was going to be a life-changing thing for me. And then I started going to her school and other schools and more schools. And that's what I mean about the power of manifestation. It's not so much about what you do, but it's aligning with the universe and understanding, people say it, but they don't mean that thing. When we say God is my provider, you got to believe that thing. And you got to believe that when you are on a purpose-driven mission, the people who are supposed to bless you will show up. And that's just basically what has happened to me. And as I continue to do the right thing, and with business, I do it with excellence, right? So I treat everyone well. I treat the janitor, right? Just as good as I treat the CEO. And every time I'm delivering my service, it's with the best customer service, because people do business with people whom they like.
Okay, so 8 years out of prison, you have rebuilt your situation, but this time the right way. Can you talk to us about what experiences, what services, what experiences you offer that are so lucrative that you have been able to execute on your visions for your rebuild?
So now we have the Institute of Research for Social Justice and Action, and I created that with my partner. So for me, I had already had books, I had been in schools, I actually got my PhD. Mayor Baraka was very essential in that. Mayor Baraka from Newark, New Jersey, he gave me an opportunity that was life-changing at the Shani Baraka Center, where I did my research. Actually, my dissertation was on using life coaching to dethrone the trauma to prison pipeline. So with that work, I ended up getting noticed by Seton Hall University. I became the community practitioner in residence there. And then I met my significant other. I brought him over there. He actually ended up becoming the activist in residence at Yale University. So then we got over to Yale, Seton Hall. So I'm at some of the top institutions in the country. But then we saw that our people didn't have a seat at the table. So we decided that we were going to create our own folding chair, which became our institute. So we then began to create the Institute of Research for Social Justice and Action. And now we're currently in 6 cities. We do classes and programming that teach and empower community leaders to get contracts, to be able to do the work that we do in communities. And we have a 5-year 100-city plan. We're currently in 6 cities. We have a plan to be in 20 cities by the end of this year. We have our first conference coming up, which is a national conference this June in Atlantic City. And it's all been on faith, doing the work, understanding that it's not about us. I feel like sometimes that's what we do. We just think it's about us and our household. I believe that we all were created on this planet to be God's vessels, to be used for his greater purpose. And I believe when you surrender to the greater plan, that's when all of the opportunities just start coming in. And now we have more opportunities than we can almost handle. But guess what we're doing? We're empowering people who go through our institute to be in position. So now it's not just about us and our people, it's about their people and communities across our country, especially urban communities, which I believe often need the greatest help.
Well, and what you are doing in terms of trauma repair is very important, because it's very difficult, trusting advice. And how important is it for you to provide a safe space for budding leaders to know that the information that they're getting won't end them up in jail?
That's good. So basically, trauma-informed care is everything. And oftentimes
that is not synonymous with business. If anything, the business that we think of, and especially that we glamorize, it's not trauma informed, it's trauma inducing.
That's true. But that's why I said I believe God allowed me to go through a really, really dark path to be introduced to his light. What I didn't tell you is behind bars, took me 5 years to create this curriculum called the Voices of Consequences Enrichment Series. And it was created to help incarcerated women heal, recognize their potential, and recapture their dreams. So it's a trauma-informed care system that I created through the blueprint of me healing myself, by me reading self-help books and the Bible and everything I could use to get through that dark situation. And now that particular curriculum has been approved through the Bureau of Prisons. So the same place that I was housed at, women now get time off their sentence for my curriculum, being a part of that and taking the curriculum. So that skill that I learned while I was behind bars, I now give and package to young people. Then I started working with my partners now who are LCSWs, and we actually have a Center for Trauma-Informed Care within our institute. So every course we take, we believe the biggest thing that's hurting our community, one of our goals is to, I keep saying, dethrone poverty, right? Because poverty has been weaponized against us and it's kept us down. So one of the things that you have to do to dethrone poverty is to change the mindset of the people and to heal the broken heart. We got to deal with the trauma. So we have so much trauma that it's hard to excel, because even when we excel, we fumble the ball. So we see all of these big people like the Diddy's of the world who didn't figure out the code. You're this billionaire. Now your past trauma got you hemmed up in something else. And now people are looking at you as a bad person. But the real truth of the matter is you never dealt with your trauma. Because someone who's dealing with some of the stuff that he's dealing with, money only magnifies whatever your insecurities and your problems are. So if we prepare people to get money without healing, then they're going to be mucked up when they finally get it. So it's essential that if we're going to really change communities, not only is it a mindset shift to get people to thinking about money differently and have a relationship with money, it's also having a relationship with self, right? Absolutely. Going back to those dark places, dealing with that trauma, right? Folks been touched. Folks been abused, right? And even just being Black in America is sometimes trauma, right? With how we are dealt and the differences between our peers. So we have to heal from those things. So how do we heal? We need to have systems that are created to help us heal.
Okay, so you said you weren't going to do what Liddy did, but you did some of what Liddy did. But now you've had a lot of training, a lot of work, a lot of pouring into yourself. How is that filtering through to your sons who are now 26 and 28?
So my kids are entrepreneurs. So it's my daughter and my son. So
excuse me, I did not know. I thought you had two sons. How old is who's the oldest?
Okay, so my son is the oldest. That's the one who I talked about building the businesses. And then my daughter listened because she was at the visitor room and she used to listen, right? Now my daughter was actually very angry at me. My kids missed out on Christmases and Thanksgivings and all the things. And my daughter had this big, lavish lifestyle that all got ripped away. So she actually really had resentment towards me. My son more so didn't. He was like a mama's boy. He forgave me for everything. And he was eager to
Why is that, boys? That is, I mean, this is not to make light of it, but that is classic. He was just like, it's okay, mommy. Like, I'm here for you. We're going to build this alpaca wool crochet business up.
We did that from Skypes. So he would get on a computer and research, and I learned about all these different things like Fiverr and all this stuff from my son doing research for me from behind bars. My daughter was more so standoffish, but she was watching, right? And then God would have it that when I came home, I was able to be extremely successful, and it opened her up to wanting to do more things with me. So my daughter, she actually graduated the Teach America program. So she got her master's degree. She also owns 2 salon suites. So wow. To your point, she has her job at Teach America. That's her job now. She believes in that good job, but she also has salon suites in North Carolina and in Brooklyn, New York, and she's doing that work. So, and it's watching me, right? Watching what my success and watching how I evolved actually inspired her to evolve as well. So God has blessed me, and my son is a part of my business, right? He is a part of my executive team. My son, does very, very well. He's an editor now. He also does a lot of work with us in graphic design. He's a creative director. He's amazing. So if you see my social media platforms and all the editing and different things that's there, that's my son doing that work. So we have the privilege to go from behind bars, working together in the visiting room, to working together in real life.
That is so wonderful. And it's so great that it's a family business. It's great that your daughter is watching and moving the way that she is. And it's also great that you are getting paid for this hard work that you're doing. One of the themes we talk about a lot here at Mompreneurs, in particular because mothers, we're known for our free labor. What advice do you have for aspiring entrepreneurs who want to build businesses rooted in purpose, not just profit, but also have bills to pay?
So I believe in perfect purpose and profit. So I get paid good money, right? So good money. And I need it, because how can I be a world changer with no money? So I want to start there. If we're doing work for free, that means we don't have funding for resources to do what we need to do. So what I love so much about me, I get paid from, the cities and stuff I go to. But let's say they don't want to pay me and I still want to do the project. I often fund out my pocket because I can, right? So if my kids come to me and say, hey, this is happening in my household, I need this or something, I have my own money. I do what I want. So I want you to think like that. You don't want money to be greedy. You want money to be a blessing. So I think the first step is the mindset shift, to understand if I'm going to be great, if I'm going to do great things on this earth, I cannot do it without resources. So understanding that opens you to say, hey, I don't just want money for myself. I want money and wealth to help others. So I think first is the mindset shift. And then the second piece is understanding your worth. So if you continue to do things for free, first of all, people generally don't value what comes to them for free. They take it for, I just got off a call. I'm doing a big conference and all of this other kind of stuff. And I'm giving in-kind services to a city, right? That normally wouldn't get that because people would charge. Because I'm doing it in kind, I'm now going through a little hell because these people are not understanding my worth. So I got to pull up on them and say, good sir, do you know what I cost? So to the sisters listening to this podcast today, I want to ask you this question. What is your worth? And I don't want you to answer it too quickly. I want you to think about, through the service that you provide, how many lives do you change? How many, things are you shifting in your atmosphere through what you're giving it? And with that in mind, label it, give it a worth so that people can understand that even if you give it away, this is what it's worth, so that they'll honor you, respect you. And more importantly, you're putting out to the universe that you deserve more. So more will come back to you.
I mean, it's absolutely true. Anyone who has ever done something that they normally get paid for free will tell you they do not feel as valued or appreciated. With the free thing, it's weird. It's a mindset, and it's not right, but it's often true. But what support systems for someone listening who feels like she's Superwoman, who's doing the most all by her lonesome? What type of support systems should she be looking for, personal, professional, that in your experience have been critical to your ability to thrive?
So it's purpose partners. You've got to find purpose partners, people who care about what you do or what you offer, whether it's a service business or product business. Purpose partners are gatekeep openers who help you in your journey. So if it wasn't for that principal that gave me an opportunity, as another young woman who I'm very close to, she's the deputy mayor of the city of Newark, New Jersey, Lakeisha Yuri, right? So it's just different people, different places. And I consider these people my purpose partners. So when I have a project, when I have an idea, when I have something, I tell them about it and they're like, yes, let's do the pilot here. So figuring out who's your tribe, sis. Who's the people first that's going to lift you up, believe in you, and then who can help you in your ecosystem. So sometimes it's not even about money, it's about trade-offs, right? It might be bartering services. You can do this, I can do that. So finding out who's in your tribe and who is on the same mission. has the same purpose, who has the same values as you. And I believe that sister tribe that we put around ourselves, and sometimes brothers, because the brothers will help out too, that's what's going to help take us to the next level.
Well, and I gotta admit though, I have to ask, where you find these people? Because this sounds as hard as finding a romantic partner. If not harder.
You got to start doing the work. And it goes back to sometimes you have to do it for free to be paid for life. So when you start getting purpose driven, you're not even thinking about the money or the resources. You're just thinking about getting it done. And getting it done, that's when the folks start showing up. Because the other piece to this is people got to see your product. People got to see your business. People got to see you in action. And for those of y'all who are not moving and recording what you're doing on social media, you behind the game. If you're not using AI, you behind the game. AI is going to be your partner, right? Because I talk to Chat GPT like it's my best friend. I might ask Chat about my significant other. Hey, Chat, Angelo done acted up today, and I don't know what's happening. Tell me what I should do. So the power of, AI can help you be 20 people all at the same time, right? And then in regards to just people, you got to just start showing up, volunteering. Putting your product out there, putting it on social media, letting people see. You just never know who's going to say, you know what? I like them. And when I say them, you are going to sell your product. So you have to be the person. People invest in people, generally not just products. What is your brand story? Who are you? Where do you come from? Why should people support you? These are all things that you should be telling in your brand story. So when people come to shop the Jamila T Davis brand, they like, hey, I heard about Jamila, because I'm not afraid to put myself out there. So sis, how you going to put yourself out there, and how you going to show up so your customers and your tribe can find you?
Okay, I love it. All right, that's a word. I can't let you leave without participating in my favorite segment called Mompreneurs Manifestation, where I ask each of our guests, what are you trying to make happen, and how we can help to bring it into the universe for you.
So I also am the owner of Black Women's Lives Matter. It's a community of women. We built our social media platform up to over 300,000 followers. And one of the things that we have is our community, right? And I've been saying this year, I'm going to get more active in the community. I just want to see more people win. So you guys winning, that's me winning, right? So the people get flexes different. People think a flex is a new car, a new house. For me, a flex is how many people I can impact. So one of the things I want to do is impact more women. I want women to join my community. I want us to help each other, kind of like what you just said. We don't know our tribe. So coming into places and spaces where we all are able to shine our light and meet other people with like-mindedness. So that's my goal for this year, to make sure I have more like-minded women who are on purpose, who want to not just survive, but thrive, be a part of the community.
Okay, and where can everyone find this community?
At blackwomensLivesMatter.com. So we have a community that is in Mighty Networks, which is like a digital community. And you guys can find us on Instagram at Black Women's Lives Matter. Come join us, be a part of community, and more importantly, just use this year to really develop self. What can we all do this year to become our greatest selves?
Because it's delays but not denials.
That part. Nancy, you okay? I'm gonna have to put you on my list of favorite podcasters, because you definitely, I went on a Breakfast Club and it was on Game Change, and I love Charlamagne, and he asked all the right questions. I was like, oh wow. I want to say this is probably, one of the first, y'all might be neck and neck on the question asking. And
but we care, because the goal is we just want our audience to win. It's the same thing, this is what life is. You can be an op, or you can be on the side of making things right in history, and you definitely are on the right side. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, I truly enjoyed this conversation.
Can you tell us where we can find you and your many businesses? What is there, an overarching umbrella?
Yes. So you can visit me at www. which is Dr. Jamila T Davis. That's JAMILA T Davis.com. I'm also on social media as Jamila T Davis. And I would love to be in touch with y'all. And Black Women's Lives Matter, come, join us and let's thrive together.
Okay, you heard her. Thank you all so much for listening to and watching Mompreneurs. As a reminder, a brand new episode goes live each Monday on Urban One Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit urban1podcast.com to learn more. That's urban1podcast.com.